Welcome to Implementing Analytics webcast series. This on Next Generation Finance Transformation. Brought to you by the JPK Group and Aurora Predictions. First, some introductions. What is JPK? It is best practice, educational forum, and discussions to help individuals and organizations conquer challenges with actionable and practical solutions, as well as open new professional opportunities. And what is Aurora? It's like Excel, big data, and artificial intelligence all in one. It enables the CFO to solve their number one anxiety, making their quarterly revenue target and knowing the levers to pull that can impact revenue growth. Now to our presentation. Next Generation Finance Transformation. Next Generation Finance moves finance from the trusted scorekeeper to the strategic partner. Next Generation Finance transforms finance into the catalyst that drives the business to make data-driven decisions through analytics. And Next Generation Finance uses systems and techniques to transform finance from hind-sight spreadsheet accounting reporting to a forward-looking predictive hub. Now, finance transformation requires finance to deliver insights to the business through a culture where business is aligned and institutionalized to make data-driven decisions through analytics. Let's explore this. Let's look at the cultural evolution to analytics. On the y-axis, we have analytical intelligence. And on the x-axis, up at the top, we have the mindset to participate in decision making. And just below that, the tools that we will use for analytics. So if we start at the base, the reporter supports decisions. And then we advance into the commentator who contributes to decision making. And then we go to the advisor who influences decision making, and then the strategist that impacts decision making. So along the road, when we support and contribute, we're really using Excel and BI. Most finance groups are in this range down here in reporting and commenting. As we move up the ladder of analytical intelligence, we get to influencing with visualization tools to help provide things that are unknown about the business. And then finally, we get to impacting decision through analytics, through things like predictive analytics and artificial intelligence, taking us as a finance group from average to good to great to world class. Now, transformation needs the analytic tools. The reasons are that ERP and CRM and POS system, they can create over 1 trillion data and calculated elements. And to give you some concept of this, 1 trillion cells would be equivalent to 10,000 spreadsheets, 100 columns wide, and 1 million rows deep. And this is just too large. Spreadsheets simply cannot cull through this volume of data to glean insights. Therefore, we need analytic tools that can find the patterns in large data and render predictions. But there are some transformation prerequisites, and they largely involve efficient and effective reporting. What we mean is that finance must automate standard reports. In other words, we have to be efficient at it, and finance must make standard reporting that supports decision-making, current decision-making. So in other words, reporting has to be effective. These prerequisites free finance bandwidth to have this time to pursue analytics and also assure the continuous decision-making capability for operations. So a question is, why should finance be involved in this transformation anyway? Well, first, only finance touches all areas of the company. And only finance has data from all areas of the company. And only finance is positioned as the analytics hub for the company. Therefore, only finance can transform the company to decisions from data. So what's the delay? Especially when 90% of finance groups surveyed say they want to implement analytics for data-driven decision. And they also say that analytics is a vehicle to gain a seat at the table. Yet, as we see on the graph to the right, only some 4% of finance groups are thoughtfully engaged with analytics. And this is largely because finance is unaware of the capabilities using analytic tools, because as we see here, 68% of finance organizations are consumed with using spreadsheets exclusively or largely as their reporting, analytic, and planning tool. So what are some examples that we can do with analytics in business? So first, let's talk about correlations to find what drives demand. These are the kinds of things that we'll look at, like promotions would be an obvious thing, but not always and not all the time. So what we're looking for is, for example, if we run a promotion that drives foot traffic, which drives demand, you say that's good. But for example, in certain stores at certain times of the year, more foot traffic doesn't necessarily lead to higher demand. So these are the kinds of things correlations can find in a very finite, granular way to help drive better decisions. We can also use correlations to find leading indicators of demand. There's consumer sentiment, the price of gas, unemployment. We think of these things all the time, and often we have a qualitative feel that they do drive demand. And we have a sense that if something happens here, then we should see up or down there. But when we use analytics, we can get very granular with it to find which indicators lead demand, when do they lead demand, how far in advance do they lead demand, and where they lead demand. So this kind of granularity again leads us to better decision making and optimization. Next, long-range forecasting to better demand planning of CapEx. So if we can see out beyond a month, beyond 2 months, beyond a quarter, if we can do that with our analytics and have 12, 18, 24 months and have a good view to the future, we can better do our CapEx planning. Product life cycle analysis to time promotions to optimize profit. Another good one. There hasn't been a marketing spreadsheet, in other words, a spreadsheet delivered by marketing about a promotion that hasn't been, at least on paper, a success. But have we over promoted? Have we promoted at the right time and the right place? Those are the things that aren't answerable through the spreadsheet. But using analytics and a very powerful aspect of life cycle analysis to better time when we do promotions, on what we do promotions, and where we do promotions will minimize promotional cost and optimize profit. Monte Carlo simulation for dynamic min-max inventory optimization. Monte Carlo is a powerful way to take a forecast, like we've done up above in long-range forecasting, and seeing the probable range of outcomes. So a forecast is a number, but Monte Carlo gives us a range of numbers around any point in time. So what we can see is in a 3-tier level is the first confidence interval, the second confidence interval, a third confidence interval, so that we can better judge the probability of outcome and therefore determine how much capital we want to outlay. Now, what this means in practicality is that your max inventory level and your min inventory level don't have to be a static number that's used throughout the year. It could be a dynamic number that changes depending on your ordering frequency from month to month or week to week or quarter to quarter. So again, that what you can do is optimize inventory for your probable outcome of sales so that you don't have one static level. Mean with standard deviation to establish the KPI and the control about the KPI. Well, if you take a business cycle and you take the average value of any value, your sales, your cost of goods sold, whatever it might be, that mean value becomes your key performance indicator. And then if you do the standard deviation about that mean, what you're saying is, here's my level of control that I have around the KPI. So let's say your sales are $1 million a month in a particular store, and that's the mean, and your standard deviation is $100,000. So basically, you have a 10% variance from month to month in a given business cycle about your sales. So you now have a way of knowing your KPI, measuring the deviation, which is the amount of control. And if you say, look, we want smoother sales in our store, we really want our standard deviation to 5% rather than 10%, you now have means of measuring and controlling. Clustering and pattern recognition to predict pipeline sales that have a propensity to close. Every month, basically, finance and sales gets together, and sales says, well, we're going to do $100 million this quarter, and finance says, no, we're going to do $90 million this quarter. And then sales ask, well, what deals aren't going to close? Why are you right and I'm wrong? And finance says, I can't tell you why you're wrong or where you're wrong. I can just tell you that your number seems high. Well, using analytics for clustering and pattern recognition, you can cull through data and you can discern the patterns which lead to a successful closing of a pipeline sales deal. And so what will happen is that you can now have a dialogue that says, these deals, we have 100 deals here, they look really good because their pattern shows a high propensity for closing. We have another 100 deals here, which are kind of on the cusp. They kind of have some good and they kind of have some bad. And we have these 20 deals down here, which our analytic pattern recognition says these don't have a propensity to close. They're not following what we've seen in the past. So by using this type of pattern recognition, we can better dedicate sales resources to where they're most likely to close. There are also some landmines on the road to analytics transformation that we should be mindful of. The first is misalignment of mindset. And before we discussed mindset as being that which supports decisions, contributes to decisions, influences decisions, or impacts decisions. And it's very important that all along the road, from the management down to the staff, that they be aligned in their mindset to data-driven decisions. This is the number one landmine in the road to transformation. Sometimes management wants to be in analytics and the staff doesn't, and other times it's reverse. Second is the lack of institutionalization, in particular data governance and processes for data-driven decision making. If we just have a man with an analytic tool sitting in the basement and asking ad hoc questions of him, that's not institutionalization. It has to be ingrained in the organization, or it will be lost as people turnover occurs naturally. And third is IT ownership of analytic projects. That cannot be. IT has a role in providing the systems for analytics and data security, but it is not and should not be the owner of the analytics projects. That is up to finance, and finance must take the lead on that. So what are the benchmarks for finance transformation to know that we're on the road properly? So number one is regular financial and operational reporting is automated with little to no manual effort. Number two, 80% of operational ad hoc inquiries are delivered by self-service tools. There's no need to have analysts, financial analysts, spending time and reams of spreadsheets to answer the questions that can be answered by analytic and visualization tools. And third if we get 1 and 2 right, then 50%, at least 50% of FP&A time should be spent on visualization and analytics. And if we do all this right, we have enormous values. First, growth is a plan and not a consequence of the market. Second, we'll have predictions through analytics to change the future rather than react to the future when it gets there. And third, strategy will be connected to operations. Fourth, and very important, budgeting will be twice as fast and meaningful. Too often, budgeting processes are done and they're basically dead on arrival after the process is complete. And finally, just as missing revenue targets, missing Wall Street expectations if you're a public company results in an average 5% hit to valuation, good data-driven decision-making, transformative finance can contribute 5% lift to valuation. Finally, we'd like to invite you to the Implementing Analytics Academy. It's a unique university-style academy with lecture and workshops. It guides you through implementing an analytics culture for data-driven decisions by giving you a detailed roadmap. You'll learn from others, you'll learn from your peers, you'll network, and you'll build community that extends well beyond the academy. We hope to see you there. For more information about the Academy, which is sponsored by the Finance Analytics Institute and the JPK Group, please go to the JPK website at jpkgroupsummits.com. And for more information on today's webcast, please contact me, Robert Zwirling, at aurorapredictions.com. Thank you for your time today.